right, so this is day 2 notes multiplying polynomials. So on the first example here, they show you, some people also call it double distributing. Some people call it foiling. The reason they call it foiling is this stands for first. So you multiply the first 2 in every parentheses. Then you multiply the outside, which would be the x and the 3. Then you multiply the inside, which is the -4 and the x. And then you multiply the last 2, which is the -4 and the 3. So if you see, when I multiply x times x, I get x squared. Remember, when you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So even though you don't see any exponents on there, those ones are really assumed. Then you're going to take this x and multiply it by this 3 to get 3x. You're going to take this -4. Remember, the sign always goes with it. So -4 times the x will give you -4x. And then -4 times the 3 will give you -12. These two terms on the inside will always be like terms. So when you have like terms, you just add their coefficients. So I have a 3 minus 4 will give me a -x. So the whole answer to this will be x squared minus x minus 12. Here are 2 more examples for you to try yourself. Why don't you put the video on pause and see if you can do it, and then unpause it and I'll go through it. All right, so the first thing you do is you multiply these 2 together. Well, again, remember the exponents on them are really 1. So n to the 1 times 7n to the 1 will be 7n squared. You're going to add those exponents. Then I'm going to take the first one and multiply it by the 4. So that'll be plus 4n. I'm going to take these 2 and multiply them together. So a -2 times a 7n will give me a -14n. And a -2 times a 4 will give me a -8. These 2 here will be like terms. So this will be 7n squared minus 10n minus 8. And then that'll be your answer for that one. All right, let's go through this next one. I'm going to multiply these 2 together. Now I'm going to multiply the numbers first, so that'll be a 10. And x squared times x, remember, I'm going to add their exponents when I'm multiplying, so that'll be x to the 4th. I'm going to multiply those 2 together. So the 2x squared plus this times this 3 will be 6x squared. I'm going to multiply those 2 together, so -6 times 5x squared will give me a minus 30x squared. And a -6 times 3 will give me a -18. Once again, the middle terms are my like terms. So I've got 10x to the 4th, 6x squared minus 30x squared. These are like terms, so I'm just going to say 6 minus 30, which will give me a minus 24x squared, and then minus 18. So that'll be your answer for that one. Now, some people prefer to do what is called the box method, especially when you have bigger polynomials. So here I have a binomial, 2 things, times a trinomial, 3 things. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll take this binomial and they'll put it in the column going down. So they'll put the 3x squared there and the 2 there. Then they'll take the trinomial and put it going across, 6x squared minus x plus 4. Again, always take the sign with it. I could put pluses on all of these if I wanted to, but the plus is actually assumed. And then you just multiply all the boxes together. So 3 times 6 is 18. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. 3x squared times a -x, well, 3 times a -1 will be a -3. X squared times x to the 1, remember there's really a 1 there, will be x to the 3rd. And 3x squared times 4 will give me 12x squared. Now I'm going to go down and do the bottom row. 6x squared times 2 will give me 12x squared. 2 times a -x squared will give me, a negative x will give me 2x. And 2 times 4 will give me 8. Now you just have to look for all of your like terms. I'm going to start with the highest exponent. So this has a 4, so I'm going to start with that one. 18x to the 4. Now I'm going to look for something that has a 3. Oh, well, this has a 3, so minus 3x to the 3rd. Well, these both have x squared, so I'm going to add them together. They are like terms. So 12 plus 12 will be 24, so this will be 24x squared. Then I have a minus 2x and a plus 8. So then that will be your final answer on that. All right, so here's an example. Why don't you put the video on pause and try it yourself, and then unpause it, and I'll go through it. All right, so I'm going to take the first one here. I'm going to put an a here and a minus 3 here. I'm going to take the trinomial and put it across. 4a squared minus 5a and 2. I'm going to multiply each of the boxes. So this will be 4a to the 3rd. Remember, there's really a 1 on that. When you're multiplying, you're going to add the exponents. Going to multiply those two together. There's also a 1 there. So this will be minus 5a squared. A times 2 will be a 2a. A negative 3 times a 4a squared will be a negative 12a squared. Negative 3 times a negative 5a, well, a negative times a negative will be a positive a. And then negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. Again, my highest exponent is the 3, so I'm going to start with that one. 4a to the 3rd. I have 2 of them here that have squared, so I'm going to add their coefficients. So minus 17a squared. 2 of them just have a's, so that'll be plus 17a, and then minus 6. So that here will be your answer to that one. Then next it says, to find the perimeter is the distance all the way around the shape. So I'm going to add all of the sides. So if this is 5x to the 4th, I know this over here has to be 5x to the 4th. And if this is 5x, I know this has to be 5x because it's a rectangle and the opposite sides are congruent. But another way to do it is just to say, well, take 2 times this side and add it to 2 times this side. So sometimes that math will be a little bit easier. So here I would say 2 times the length, which would be 5x, plus 2 times the height, which would be 5x minus 4. And now I can just do that math. Well, 2 times 5x will give me a 10x, plus, now I have to distribute this 2. So this will be 10x. 2 times a negative 4 will be a negative 8. I can combine my like terms. So this will be 20x minus 8. So that now is an expression for the perimeter of this rectangle. And that's the same thing as if I added them up, right? This would be 5x, 10x, 15x, 20x. So there's where I get my 20x. And minus 4 and minus 4 gives me my minus 8. So that's the same thing. But if I'm trying to find my area, I have to do my length times my width. So I'm going to take those two and I'm going to multiply them together. So I'm going to have 5x times 5x minus 4. So now I have to distribute. 5x times 5x will be 25x squared. And 5x times minus 4 will be minus 20x. So now this is an expression for the area of that rectangle. So once again, go ahead and put it on pause. See if you can do this one yourself, and then I'll do it out. So again, if you remember, the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So it'll be 2 times 4x plus 3 plus 2 times 2x plus 2. That's what the perimeter will equal. Now I have to distribute the 2. So I'll have 8x plus 6, and I have to distribute the 2 here as well. 4x plus 4. Combine my like terms, so the 8x and 4x are like terms. That'll give me a 12x. And the 6 and the 4 are like terms, so that'll give me plus 10. So my perimeter will equal 12x plus 10. And if I have to find the area, again, remember your area is your length times your width. So now I'm going to take 4x plus 3, and I'm going to multiply that by 2x plus 2. Now we have to do that double distributing or foiling. So I'm going to multiply those two together. That'll give me an 8x squared. And I'll multiply those two together, 4x times 2, which will give me an 8x. I'm going to multiply those two together, which will give me a 6x. And I'll multiply the first and the last together for a plus 6. These here will be my like terms. So I'll say 8x squared plus 14x plus 6. And that is now my expression for the area. So if you have questions when you're working through the homework, please send me an email. I'll be happy to help you.